Ukraine has launched an unseen front against Russia's energy infrastructure. While tanks engage in combat, drones and sabotage strike Moscow's logistical lifelines, power stations, fuel depots, refineries, and pipelines. Explosions and blackouts occur deep within Russia, shattering the belief that its rear lines are secure. This fight is not symbolic, it is about crippling logistics, depleting fuel resources, and compelling costly repairs under pressure. Kyiv's strategy is clear: replicate the winter assault Russia initiated on Ukraine's power grid. This will diminish the Kremlin's capacity to finance and fuel the invasion. The targets are selected for their strategic importance, rather than for their visibility: thermal power plants that illuminate entire areas, depots essential for moving armored units, refineries that support exports, and cross-border pipelines that connect Russia to Europe. The more interconnected a target is with military, industrial, and civilian systems, the greater the impact on Russia's war efforts. This strategy began to take shape in early 2023. What initially appeared to be mere accidents at oil depots gradually transformed into a consistent wave of drone and missile attacks. A pivotal moment occurred at Sevastopol, when a significant naval fuel site exploded, demonstrating Ukraine's ability to strike deep within territory that Russia holds dear. The psychological impact was as significant as the flames. Regular Russians witnessed previously untouchable sites burn, while military commanders grappled with disruption far from the front lines, complicating operational planning and undermining their confidence. Regions along the border, such as Belgorod and Kursk, began facing issues familiar to Ukrainians: unexpected blackouts, failing heat and water services, and sirens in cities unaccustomed to air raids. Despite their formidable air defenses, Russia's coverage cannot blanket an entire continent. Swarm attacks, decoys, different flight paths, and low-altitude strikes challenge this coverage. Even one successful strike can cripple a substation or ignite a fuel depot. Each hit necessitates rerouting power, creating emergency islands in the grid, and leads to a heavy reliance on diesel backups, which require clean fuel, filters, and safeguarded delivery routes. This challenge reaches beyond domestic concerns. In August 2025, attacks on the Druzhba pipeline interrupted flows to Hungary and Slovakia, revealing that even Russia's international energy routes are susceptible to disruption. It served as a stark reminder to Europe that chaos in Russia can affect neighboring nations, raising questions about prices and storage tactics. Kyiv positioned this pressure as justified retribution for months of Russian assaults on Ukraine's energy resources, indicating that the costs of this war are burdens shared by all. Operationally, every explosion creates new complications. Convoys must alter their routes for safety, while rear areas require additional security. Generators and mobile transformers are deployed, and repair crews work under the veil of night and threat. The friction accumulates, delays, indecision, and opportunity costs begin to impact campaign timelines. Over months, damage to grids and refineries accumulates. Production declines, distribution slows, urgent repairs evolve into prolonged overhauls, shortages of spare parts become evident, and the pressures of insurance and financing tighten. By late 2025, many areas witnessed fuel rationing and long lines at gas stations, prompting the government to pause gasoline and diesel exports to stabilize local prices, an astonishing move for what claims to be an energy superpower. Moscow projects a facade of control and resilience, yet the drain on resources is palpable. Military assets are being repositioned, moving S-400s and interceptors inward to shield power plants, refineries, and major urban centers, creating an internal shield that limits frontline coverage. Civil defense initiatives are expanding, introducing tethered balloons, mobile radars, short-range anti-drone systems, and volunteer spotters. The layers of electronic warfare and jamming have been implemented, but each new layer is costly in terms of time, finances, and skilled personnel, while attackers continually innovate faster than defenders can strengthen their defenses. On the technical front, the underlying vulnerability is systemic. Power systems are built on N1, N2 redundancies, but long lead times for vital components like high-voltage transformers mean temporary solutions often become semi-permanent. Black start capability does exist, yet it relies on diesel supplies and coordinated dispatch that must work under stress. Refineries operate like delicate ecosystems. Damaging a crude or vacuum unit, a catalytic cracker, or a control room can incapacitate significant production capacity. Even if fires are managed, contamination, inspections, and repairs can delay restarts. Pipelines remain linear and exposed. Striking just the right pumping station can disrupt hundreds of kilometers of flow. SCADA networks add a cyber dimension where both sides attempt to secure or probe weaknesses, even as kinetic strikes remain the main focus. Tactically, Ukraine combines intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, ISR, with cost efficiency. Satellites, open-source mapping, and observation of normal activities help pinpoint vulnerabilities, isolated tanks, exposed switching yards, and defenseless intake structures. One-way attack drones traverse low and slow, crafted from wood or composite materials to evade radar detection. Decoys prompt premature defensive reactions, forcing the adversary to choose which area to secure when strikes are timed strategically. An investment of a few $100,000 in drones can inflict millions in damages and cause extended downtimes, a ratio that defenders struggle to counterbalance. Russia's adaptation is unceasing, creating denser short-range air defense systems around refineries and power grids, increasing nighttime patrols, and employing decoy tanks along with false heat sources. Additionally, modular barriers are being established over transformers, while supplies are better dispersed. Rail and road logistics have shifted to nighttime operations, incorporating camouflage and deception along strategic corridors. However, this dispersion of resources raises costs and hampers throughput. While hardening defenses may buy time, it does not guarantee invulnerability. In Kyiv, targeting remains calibrated to uphold moral legitimacy and allied support. A focus on assets that contribute to the war effort is vital, steering clear of strikes that could result in mass casualties. This approach serves both ethical and strategic purposes. It ensures partners remain aligned, denies Moscow propaganda victories, and maximizes military efficacy with every strike. Western intelligence is likely providing eyes for precision targeting, through satellite tasks, electronic interceptions, and reconnaissance, while discussions about weapon policy for long-range strikes evolve as inhibitions fade. Moscow characterizes this as a direct NATO involvement, raising the stakes and escalating risks as deep strikes continue to succeed. This narrative pressures Europe and the US to strike a careful balance between effectiveness and escalation containment. The tremors of these events are felt in markets and policies. Each refinery fire or pipeline disruption nudges pricing fluctuations, triggers precautionary restocks, and prompts governments to reassess stock release regulations and budgets for hardening their grids. Utility companies stress-test their systems for peak winter demands, drawing up reserve plans. Transportation ministries explore alternative fuel logistics via rail and road. NATO and the EU scrutinize defense mechanisms for critical infrastructure across aerial, cyber, and physical aspects. Adjustments in risk models are made by insurers, while lenders account for downtime. Municipalities begin stockpiling generators and spare parts. As we focus on the human element, picture control room teams glued to screens as alarms sound, field units replacing jammed filters while guarding late-night fuel convoys, and dispatchers isolating sections of the grid to alleviate strain. These everyday tasks determine whether a strike leads to a headline story or a humanitarian crisis. The margins for errors tighten, not due to changes in physics, but because sustaining logistics and attention becomes a struggle under constant threat. 3 plausible trajectories emerge in the near future. First, erosion. Constant Ukrainian strikes leave Russian nodes in perpetual repair, diminishing output and tightening local supplies. Second, adaptation. Robust Russian defenses could redirect Ukraine's tactics toward fewer, higher-impact attacks inside Russia, which carry increased risks but potentially offer greater precision. Third, escalation. Should Moscow perceive the campaign as intolerable Western-supported aggression, They may expand targets or threaten non-kinetic reprisals, raising diplomatic tensions and evaluating allied unity. Before publishing, challenge your assumptions. What if the campaign encounters diminishing returns as Russia fortifies essential locations and learns to recognize flight patterns? Could strikes inadvertently strengthen domestic Russian support or provoke broader retaliations? Conversely, might we be undervaluing Ukraine's innovative capabilities, affordable swarms, improved guidance, or synchronized cyber-physical tactics that reduce repair durations? The reality likely occupies a middle ground, a dynamic contest where each adaptation reshapes the cost curve for both contenders. The broader implication is significant. Energy has become a theater of conflict. Pipelines, grids, and refineries act as strategic pressure points, with their disruption yielding benefits that rival gains on the battlefield. As winter approaches, Russia now faces a fear that was once unique to Ukraine, the threat of darkness, while consumers, markets, and governments react to every headline. Strengthening critical infrastructure has moved from theoretical discussions to urgent necessity. This includes having spare parts ready, mobile transformers on standby, diversified routes, layered counter-drone systems, and resilient energy dispatch plans. The conflict has evolved into a multifaceted contest: drones and blackouts, fuel rationing and intelligence networks. It's much more than just tanks and trenches. As long as Ukraine's deep strike initiative remains relentless, and while Russia grapples with the challenge of shielding its vast rear, the repercussions will be felt far beyond the front line, extending through Europe's energy security, the dynamics of global markets, and the evolving calculations of escalation intertwined with every substation, tank farm, and pipeline junction.